Hello everybody, Blue Dooley. We're doing an ATS vlog. We're going to be checking out a Mack R model modded truck. We're going to jump in and customize it a little bit. I already have one customized, loaded, and ready to go. We're going to be hauling some lumber from Elko. And today we're going to be talking about getting stuck, as all of my trucking career has been construction, trash, and construction. I go off pavement quite a bit, and getting stuck's pretty much guaranteed, especially certain times of the year. If you're in agriculture, logging, oil fields, mining, those of us who go off pavement in trucks and get stuck, it happens. No matter how good you are, you get stuck. In fact, we're going to be talking about operator we all called number one, but not because he was the best operator we had. And I'm going to tell you about some of my stucks, including probably my most embarrassing and hard to admit stuck, and of course my first stuck, which was in high school. Because, well, when you're in high school and you have four-wheel drive, you tend to go see how good you are, and you usually find out you're not. So, let's shrink me down here. We're going to put me on the side of the screen so you can actually see the menu over on the where you can select cab. And this is the R model, R600. Cab choices, you get single lamps or double lamps. I'll leave them single. Wheelbase, you can go really short to 187. Unfortunately, no sleeper cab, so you can't make it the full rubber duck truck, but you can put the rubber duck hood ornament on it, and that gets you pretty close. Engine size, the mod author mentioned that the only mod engines in this truck are ones you could get in the R600 in real life. So you either get a Mack or a Detroit. And you could get the higher horsepower 6V92, which, being a two-stroke, all it's good for is turning fuel and air into noise. I've worked with people who have driven them many, many miles, and most would agree the only reason you have a radio in a truck with a Detroit is so you have something to listen to when the Detroits broke down. We're actually going to use the Mack 676 11-liter engine, 285 horsepower, 1,080 foot-pounds of torque. Transmission is just like the engines, only transmissions you could get in the truck at the time. I'm running a 13-speed, but you can run from a 4-speed auto. There's a 12, and I believe 13 is the highest ratio you can get. The interior of this truck is modded really, really nice. Keys animated, window cranks animated, switches are animated. Just a really good model, and all the bells and whistles you could get in an R model. You can go gray and black or tan. Color choices, he gave you a lot of choices on colors, stock colors, and even though you can't see it, you can see part of the paint window here. But you can change the 3 colors on some of the colors of the stripes on some of these paint jobs. This one you can't. That one you can't. However, some of the rest of them you can. We'll just leave it black because rubber duck. Hood ornament. You can have the black rubber duck or chrome rubber duck or gold rubber duck. Gotta have the black one. Lots of bumper choices. Stock, chrome, painted, heavy duty bull bar, well, heavy duty bumper, which is actually kind of a common Mack bumper. I've driven some 2007 Granite, had that same style bumper on it. And a bull bar with so many lights. You can put so many lights on this truck, it's unreal. I'm actually running the heavy painted on mine. You can, of course, have fender mirrors or not. one of the coolest ones I like about this truck is you can change the air cleaner. No air cleaner, short chrome, short painted, the Aussie style, and Aussie style painted. We'll get rid of that one for now. Main mirrors, a few mirror selections, and of course chrome. The thing this truck does that I really, really like, and I think all the in-game trucks, every truck, mod truck, and base game truck, you should be able to select what kind of straps you want on your fuel tank and select paint or bare aluminum, chrome, or polished aluminum, or painted. That should be on all game trucks because you can do that in real life. Really easy. Several stack options from stock on either side to straight pipes. Kind of whatever you want you can do. You can throw a deck plate on here, or you can throw a headache rack on here. Chassis Mack stock. Almost looks like you might be able at some point to paint it, which would be awesome. I do have a truck you can paint the frame on, or at least matches the paint of the cab. Fenders, you can go full painted, full chrome, or the quarter fenders. Of course, mudguard. A couple of bumpers, painted, chrome, or no bumper at all. Sun visor, you get one option. Horns. Oops. Let's click on the horn dummy. You can go up to train horns if you want. Lights. Tons of lights. Mod trucks, you can light them up like a Christmas tree if you want to. And of course you can do the scoops, like if you have the that roof vent open. And you can do the deflector. The lights on the headache rack are lit and animated. They blink with the turn signal or the hazards. Just a really cool looking little truck. You can get rid of the dash if you, or GPS if you want. You have nice wood grain panels. You can change your gauges, of course your wheel. Just an awesome little truck. That's sun visor. But yeah, I've actually driven a truck with one of those vents on it, and they're actually kind of cool. So here's what I'm driving. Of course, I got the aftermarket stacks turned out, dual headlight, got the wides up front. I just like the look of the wide steer tires on the Macks. Actually, I just like the look of wide tires on the front of anything. They just look awesome. We're going from Elko, Nevada up to the Dalles, Oregon with lumber, which is actually kind of fitting since I drive and deliver trusses, so I pretty much only haul lumber. So let's jump in the truck. We're already loaded, as I mentioned. Outside, the truck is just absolutely gorgeous. I love the look of the R model. At 6'4", I'd probably have a hard time fitting in an R model, but definitely a cool looking truck. Turn down the volume in my head a little bit. It sounds really good. We're pulling a 45-foot trailer with I black out all my rims. Just how I roll. But as I said, all the things are animated, even that switch for your diff lock and your window crank. That kind of stuff's just cool. I dig the heck out of it. And your turn. I'll show you the Johnson bar, but I don't actually have the trailer brakes mapped to a button. So, let's get rolling, and we'll talk about getting stuck. Roll the window down so you can listen to the engine for a little bit. Everyone's having a good week. Mine's going pretty well. Took half of a quadplex over to Pocatello today. And actually I only took a quarter of the quadplex because the half they're building first is so many trusses and they're so huge. Couldn't get them all on one truck. And that was even stretching my trailer out to 60 feet. Had about 3 feet off the front. Would have just had both sides hanging off on the back. It would have been too wide. So we split it up and put it on 2 trucks. That happens sometimes. And as I mentioned, I started out in construction. Switched to garbage. Now I'm back basically in construction since I own trusses. My first good stuck was kind of funny. Not at the time, but it is now because I can laugh at it. Back in high school, I had a 94 Jeep Cherokee. 4-door, straight 6, 5-speed manual of that Jeep. And a friend of mine and I decided on 4th of July weekend we'd go play up in the mountains west of Laramie, the Snowy Range, and got stuck in a snowdrift 4th of July weekend. Which is part of why it was funny. The second part of it, why it was funny is being in high school we didn't have shovels. I did have tow ropes, so when somebody else came along in an old mid-80s square body Chevy 3/4 ton truck, I was like, hey, I got a rope. Could you give us a tug? They're like, of course. So we hooked onto the bumper of the Jeep because I didn't have really good tow points on the back. And they gave her a good jerk and blew the U-joint out of the front end on the passenger side, I want to say. It was either the passenger side or the driver's side U-joint. Just grenaded it, trying to pull the Jeep Cherokee on the snowdrift. So that wasn't funny at the time because I didn't have a lot of cash with me. And I didn't know how much a 3/4 ton Chevy U-joint would be. But I did get an A+ for the bumper I welded up on the rear of my Jeep because I told the instructor about it. I finished it when he was out being sick and had a substitute. Okay. It didn't bend or break when I got yanked out of a snowdrift by a 3/4 ton Chevy. So that was probably the funniest stuck I've had. My worst stuck was working at the university. And it was one of those days you have once in a while where nothing goes right. So, one of the guys was welding up a hitch on the flatbed of our new 1-ton Ford because the one the flatbed came with wasn't going to cut it for what we needed it for. They wanted us to go up to the university's rec camp up in the Snowy Range Mountains. It was December or January. They wanted one of the guys to go up and blow out the parking lot with a snowblower on a skid steer because they were going to have the logging company come in and log out all the dead beetle kill, which has been 15, 16 years. The Wyoming and a lot of the western states, the pine beetles just decimated the pine trees. And I think they logged almost 90% of the trees out of that rec camp just for safety and to keep the beetles from spreading. That's why they were logging it in the winter, to keep the beetles from spreading to the good trees. And safety. I mean, they didn't want to worry about a dead tree falling on somebody at a rec camp. So the other guy, the guy they were going to send, didn't have his A. He just had B. So I was like, well, I got my A, so why don't we just take 2 skid steers up there behind the dump truck and we'll get it done a little faster. I'm like, alright. You guys can do that. We don't have anything else going on. We need to get that done. So, being naive, both of us, we didn't think to ask if we had tire chains for the truck. Mistake number 1. Mistake number 2, not putting any dirt or sand in the back of the truck so it had weight on the drives. It had a power divider and diff lock in it. So we loaded up both the skid steers, had to jump start one of them, got them loaded, trailer had a flat, went and got the flat repaired, and by that time, at about 11 o'clock, so we thought, well, we'll stop at the Wendy's at the truck stop on the way out of town and grab lunch. Yeah, the other guy's lunch was a problem, which we didn't realize until after we'd already gotten 20 minutes outside of town. We got up to Centennial, which is a little town up there. Go through Centennial, I think we want to say maybe 5 miles outside of town. You hang a left and go further up the mountain to get to the rec camp. Which actually was, the road up was pretty good because there were some farmers back there and there was a church camp as well. So, being a little green and not knowing exactly how far up this road we were going, we came up to a pretty good right-hand bend. Had a fair bit of camber to it, which was, it was in the shade. So instead of keeping my current speed, partway through I was like, I should probably slow down. And that was my biggest mistake of the day, was tapping the brakes, breaking traction, and the truck and trailer slid into 4 feet of snow. And it gets even better from there. Ooh, not that bad though. Actually, almost not bad. As we unchained the skid steers, got everything dug out, still couldn't get the truck free, which was why we needed dirt or chains. And a skid steer just doesn't have enough weight in the snow to yank that much mass and give it a hand. So we unhooked the trailer. Excuse me. Unhooked the trailer, and of course it's icy enough, we managed to drag the trailer back out of the way, get the dump truck rocked, get everything hooked up. I was going to back down to the entrance to the church camp to get turned around, and not fully paying attention, I didn't realize the rocks were covered in ice. I could see the rocks. I thought they were clean because they were out in the sun. They were icy. And I thought, well, I'll open the gate so I don't hit it. It was locked. And then, again, being green and cocky, I should have enough room. Didn't. It got stopped. with a good 1.5 feet between the trailer and the fence. And put it in gear, spun out, slid backwards into the fence, or the gate, and broke the fairly cheap chain they had keeping the gates closed. It snapped fast enough I didn't even scratch the paint on the gate. So, fairly livid at that point. And to top it all off, the extra icing on the cake after getting the truck and trailer turned around was the Bobcat was still stuck while trying to free the dump truck. The other guy was up blowing out the road while I got turned around. And I was using the bucket to just jam into the ground and scoop myself back. And I was just about free. And gave it one more quick jerk on the joystick and the hydraulics died. Which meant, because of the angle the bucket was at and the arms, I couldn't get out of the skid steer. I couldn't open the door. Now I understand why everybody says you should have a roll-up door on a skid steer. I had to push the glass out, got out. The other guy had finished blowing out the parking lot, drove that skid steer back down to the truck, loaded it up. Once we got out of the mountains back to Centennial, we could actually make a phone call, call the boss and tell him that the one skid steer was broke, and we got the truck and trailer stuck. And that's why we'd been up there all day. Just a cold, miserable son of a bitch, start to finish. That was, without a doubt, the worst stuck I have ever met. I did get a tiny bit of redemption, as when we took the loader and a set of forks up to go rescue the broken Bobcat. They were up there with some of the logging equipment, and that guy had gotten stuck with tire chains on. So I felt a little better about that. So we used our, I think, a year-old 944 cat loader to just scoop up the Bobcat. So, mama cat picking up the baby Bobcat. We parked the truck, both trucks and trailers down there because we finally got the 1 ton ready to go. And you couldn't fit that loader and the skid steer on the equipment trailer, it just wasn't long enough. So that was definitely a steep learning curve for how trucks handle in the snow. When I worked at Trash in Casper, that Freightliner and I, we got stuck a lot. Even with tire chains. Most of the time, though, it was out at the landfill, which, if you go out to the landfill enough in the year, you're going to go out there when it's a muddy mess, and you're probably going to get stuck. Even with power divider and deflows. So me and Stuck, we're good friends. I've pulled coworkers out too. I'm not the only one that's gotten stuck. In fact, actually at Casper one time, they were out north of town with a rear load. North of Casper's, just nothing and sand. And trucks just don't like sand. You get a little bit of a hop in them and you either twist the drive shaft or you just dig a hole and get stuck. The wrecker they sent out to pull that truck out got stuck pulling them out. So we had to actually send another truck out there to tow the tow truck, to tow the other truck out of the sand. Backtracking to the university though, and our #1 operator, who wasn't #1. I have a picture of this. I'm going to throw it up here in the video so you can see it. He sunk a pretty good sized Caterpillar road grader to the belly pan. Actually, a little more than a belly pan. It's not the biggest cat grater, but it's pretty big sized. And I took the picture while I was driving the 944 loader moving out there, because he also thought that I could just stick the bucket underneath the ripper bar on that loader, on that grater, and pick it up. No. 944 will move a lot of dirt, take a lot of weight. Road grader? No. I just stood it up on its front tires. Like, that ain't gonna work, Bill. So what we ended up doing was pulling around, putting the motor grader's blade in the bucket, tilting the road grader as far as we could with its own hydraulics, block the tires up, move the loader to the other side, repeat the process, picking it up with its own hydraulics. So, I got a good chuckle out of that for a while. Bill didn't think it was funny. The rest of us, oh yeah. He never lived it down either. Every time he'd go out to grade something, we'd be like, hey, should we bring the loader just in case he gets stuck again? Because trust me, they didn't live me down getting that truck stuck. Oh, no. Constantly reminded of that. Of course, now I can laugh at it. At the time, that day, I couldn't laugh at it. Of course, trash trucks are like dump trucks, and you just kind of go where you probably shouldn't a lot of times. Generally at construction sites, though, they got a backhoe or a telehandler that can give you a yank out. I actually got pulled out one time at hauling trusses, oversized loader trusses. As again, if you're in the business, you kind of know that sometimes when it rains, you get even an 1/8 inch of just slime that turns to grease, and no matter how much weight you got on the truck, no matter how knobby a tire you have, they just spin. So I got pulled out by a 2-wheel drive Chevy because the truck was just spinning out on slime. Of course, we kind of wore the tires out on that 2-wheel drive Chevy. We took a lot of miles off. Left some pretty good black marks getting free. But we got free. And we didn't have to call the tow truck. If you didn't know, tow trucks for big trucks are expensive. I know when I was doing trash, we had a deal with one of the trash towing companies. And even getting a deal was $480 just for him to show up. That was before he hooked the cable or hooked the truck up to even a broke down truck. So with the semi, they really want to make sure it's a very fine balance between making the customer happy and not getting the truck stuck. Which, thankfully, my current boss is an old truck driver. He did logging for a while, so he's thrown chains on sunny summer days to get up dirt roads. And I have too now. That's not much fun, throwing tire chains to get up a dry driveway, just because it's so steep. And you usually end up tearing up the tire chains in the process, depending on how heavy you are and how steep it is. I've pulled that guy out of stuck once too. I don't have a picture of it though. It was one of those jobs that the house was so big you needed two 18-wheelers to get it all out there. One of them was a pilot load, the other one was just an inch under. And oh yeah, we gotta have him, we're ready for him. We get out there and he's looking at like, I could kind of tell he didn't even want to try. The framer was there and pretty insistent since I was there. He's like, well, you stay here on the dry ground, I'll try to get in. He got most of the way in the driveway, just about sinking to the tanks. Which, again, judging from his attitude, I think he had expected it. But since I was there, he wasn't too concerned because he knew we could just throw chains on my truck. Hook a couple of straps between my tow point on my truck, crossbar on the back of his trailer, and just yank him out with minimal swearing. So we gave it a try, and then told him we'd be back in a week when it maybe dried out enough. And that's kind of the lesson it's a hard decision to make because you don't want to piss the customer off. And you don't want to call up your boss and say, hey, there's no way I'm getting in here. So you kind of have to give it a good try. And until you actually really get used to the truck. And kind of know what hangs it up and what doesn't hang it up. It can be a lot of frustration. On the flip side, though, when somebody says there's no way you're getting in there, or I'll go get the tractor to pull you out if you get stuck trying to get in there, and you just get in there, unload, and get out with no problem, that's a pretty good feeling. I've had a couple of those where people are like, I'm not sure you can make it, and then you get in there and you're like, wow, I had no idea you could get that in there. Which I think most professional drivers kind of take pride on when you get in them tight spots. People are like, I don't know, and then you get in there and done, and they're like, wow, that's definitely a good feeling. I take pride in that. A lot of pride being able to get in a lot of places that I probably shouldn't be able to. But I have gotten stuck a lot. And I've actually had some locations where the only reason I got in or out is because they had a machine, and I was like, well, if you got the keys for it, I might be able to get in. Or I can get in, but you're going to have to help me get out. And that's even on dry ground. Big trucks don't like steep, loose ground. Whether you have a lot of weight on you or no weight on you. I got trusses down to a shop, down a very steep road that I was pretty sure I wasn't going to make it out, but I couldn't leave them up on the road. They were just too big, and the road was just too narrow. Jake Brickett, this thing sounds awesome. So I got down there, and the owner kind of expected, he was a truck driver, so he wasn't sure if I could get in, if I could get out either. He said, well, I can throw chains and give it a couple of shots. And there just wasn't enough room to get enough momentum to get the last 7 feet up the driveway and onto the flat. So, tire chains, power divider, diff lock, and a 4-wheel drive, 3/4 ton Cummins powered Dodge. And we got out of there. It's a good thing he had a skid steer because there were some pretty deep ruts he had to fill in from both his pickup truck and that semi. But he kind of figured that we'd tear it up, getting in and out of there, so he wasn't too worried about it. He was just glad to have him. And glad to not pack him down the hill by hand, because that would have been the only way they could have got him down. And I'm pretty sure if they had to do that, they'd been swearing at me all while they were doing it. So, yeah, throwing tire chains on to get through dry ground. We haven't done that before. It's really interesting. Of course, here in farm country, southern Idaho and eastern Idaho, when they harvest the spuds and the sugar beets, sometimes the weather isn't always cooperative, and you'll notice a lot of trucks out here have a big D-ring sticking out the front of the bumper, where it's welded to a bar that's then bolted to where the bumper bolts to the frame. And they actually make a tow bar that's hydraulic controlled that connects to the tractor's 3-point hitch. And you can raise and lower that tow bar and then angle it if you need to. So the driver doesn't have to get out of the truck, and the person in the tractor doesn't even have to get out of the tractor. You can just back up, grab onto the truck with that tow bar, and then just drag them through the muck, which, again, depending on the weather when they're harvested, you either drag the truck through the muck or wait until it dries out, which isn't always the case. Which, I did that a lot as a trash truck driver. You'd go out to the landfill and there'd just be so many, they'd have an extra guy out there with a loader and about a 2-inch tow cable. And you just wait in line for your turn for the guy to come over with the loader, hook onto your tow hook, drag you through the muck to get unloaded. When Giovanni had that big recall, not that long I've been first plant for 5. So, probably 6 years ago, they shipped a lot of that recalled product to their big factory here, and then we'd load it up in 48-foot walking floors and run it out to the landfill. And of course that was in February and March, which is the rainy season here. So I've spent many an hour hooked to a machine getting pulled through flop. And the problem is, it's a hard call to make because you run the risk of tearing something up, dragging it through the slop, and puncturing tires because you're sinking down into the trash that's below you. But at the same time, you can't close because you gotta get the trash somewhere. So on a dry day, I could get 5 loads from the Uber plant out to the landfill. On the muddy days, depending on how long I had to wait to get towed. What are we doing here, people? Depending on how long I had to wait to get towed, kind of determined how many trips I could get. Now that I got out here, everybody's gonna go. Because that's how way worse than this game. And it depends on how lucky it was. Sometimes they could just tow me up to the hill and I'd be alright on the flat. And there were times tow me up and around, unhook, hook to the trailer, tow me backwards to the pile, then unload, then tow me out. That just makes for a long day. I should probably pull in here. Get some fuel. So I'm going to pull in, get some fuel. We will reconvene after I get fuel. Back on the road after stopping to fill up, which actually worked out really good in real life. It was dinner time. So I went and ate dinner. And came back to driving truck. Even funnier, since I was at a truck stop that looked like it had fried chicken, we had fried chicken for dinner. Odd coincidence. back rolling again. And I've told you about all of my stucks. Well, not all of my stucks. Many of my interesting stucks. Jump down in the comments. Tell me about your favorite stuck story. Or maybe your least favorite stuck story, but it was a good stuck. I definitely want to hear. So share with me your stuck stories. Could be, well, you could be like the gentleman last weekend here in Idaho that was trying to launch his boat out at Salmon Dam, and the lake's so low he drove out into the mud and sunk his, I think it was a Suburban, all the way to the frame. I get people like fishing, but when the lake's so low you gotta drive a half a mile out into the lake from the boat ramp. Might not be a good idea to drive out there. So if you've gotten stuck going fishing or hunting, if you got stuck driving a truck, I'm sure if you actually are over to the road truck driver and you run out west, you've probably been stuck somewhere in Wyoming because of snow. Or maybe not because of the snow, but because the wind is blowing so hard, it'll blow you straight off the road. Let's talk about getting stuck. always fun stories to share, or use to rag on your friends because they got stuck. But I want to hear. Also, since this is on Wednesday, go ahead and post up how your week's going. As I started off the video, mine's going pretty well. I apparently need to downshift and talk at the same time. Got 200 miles according to the GPS. I think we'll cut off here, and I'll catch up to you when we're closer to our destination. Final couple miles, yay! Right here. Hopefully I didn't hit the mailbox. Can't see because it's dark. You'd think being a trash truck driver I'd be used to driving in the dark all the time because we start before dark. But now that I'm driving trust trucks and delivering oversized loads, you can't be out. Well, we don't have the lighting on the loads to go out before dawn. So now, pretty much daylight only. And I'm okay with that. We'll get this truck parked and see how we did. And here we are. Excellent. 596 miles, 14 hours. Drank 81 gallons of fuel. And we're up to level 32. That's the R600. You can find it on Steam. It is free. I would suggest checking it out. It's a cool little truck, especially if you like older trucks and you're a fan of Macks like I am. Wish we could tune it up a little more though, but I'm pretty sure anybody who's a truck driver wishes they had more horsepower pretty much all the time. If you like the video, click like, and if you like the content, even though I can't speak English apparently very good, click subscribe so you can see more videos like this, more RCing videos like I had on Sunday where James and I went out to Cauldron Lynn to check that out. We had his little boy with him, so he didn't play with his RC cars, but that's probably a good thing because Little James was more interested in climbing down all the holes he could find in the rocks. It's a really cool place to check out. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good week.